I have a guest today. I'm kind of old now, so my memory's not as great, but Scott told me that I had interviewed him before, and he's been working on Gann stuff for a while, and I caught a tweet. He's Baby Yoda on X, and very nice to meet you. Nice to meet you today, Scott. Thanks for coming in. And
Hi,
you want to
Dale.
tell that I don't remember how many years ago could that have been when you and
That was
I.
in 2015 when I published my book, The New Ice Age, The Truth About Climate
Oh
Change.
my God, now I remember you. Well,
Aha.
okay. Yeah, I remember that interview. You still a believer in that? And that's what's happening in what we're getting snow in Florida this winter?
Well, and that's where I live. So it was
Okay.
really, really cold here about 10 days
Yeah.
ago. But what
So
happened?
are we flipping with the magnetic poles and stuff? Will that have anything to
I
do with
think
it?
that's already happened. That's what
Yeah.
they're saying.
Yeah.
But
All
just an
right, let's.
update on the book and what's happened. 2019 was supposed to be there. When I wrote the book and did the research, there's very little research in terms of long-term weather forecasting. It really doesn't, there's not much out there. And the only three things I could find were the for NASA forecasts, which have been wrong, the British Royal Observatory, which has been wrong, and the Russian scientists who do something called total solar irradiance. And everything should have gotten cold a little while ago, which it did. The upper atmosphere has been very cold. It still is. In fact, somebody just published a chart a little while ago or a couple of days ago about the temperatures are like 20 degrees centigrade below where the normal levels are at the North Pole right now. So
Uh,
it's cold up there. The problem is, I think what happened was is some of the warming that we've had kind of muted the coldness we should have had in 2019, 2020. But more importantly, is that the Russians are going to be right. The Russians' total solar irradiance. Now, this is a hoot. Back when I wrote the book, NASA said nothing about total solar irradiance. Now they're parading it around like they're the ones that created it, and it was the Russian scientists.
okay.
And that
And there's.
forecast, go
Go ahead.
ahead.
No,
I
go
was,
ahead.
I was just going to say the Russian forecast is that we should be cold all the way to about 2045, maybe 2050. And so it's just starting. Sunspot
Okay.
cycle 25 peaks this year in July. And from there, it's pretty much straight downhill. Um,
Okay. All right.
so
So we're
putting
seeing the
it to
sun with their last hurrah. That proud. It's been very active, the sun. Anyway, I know that our audience is interested in making money. They're not like you and I want to look at the macro, and we're fascinated by, maybe that global warming could be is, just they could be wrong. So why don't you tell us what kind of journey you've been on to start trading and how you decided Gann was the way? And were you self-taught on this, Scott, or did you have any mentors that helped you with Gann? Because it's pretty esoteric.
Well, I'll just give you the history. Um, I'm in my 52nd year of following the markets. Started in 1973. In 1974, I became Series 3 and Series 7 licensed. Went to work for EF Hutton, and I've been a market guy, ever since.
Yeah,
So I've studied a lot of the, Bear and Hurst,
yeah,
Gann, Wyckoff. I've read
yeah.
all these guys. I've studied astrology. I've done all these things. So more importantly than that is that in the last 6 months, I've discovered something that I think is really what Gann was trying to talk about. In 1908, Gann talked about his master time factor, which he said was his greatest discovery of all these things. And what happened was, and I believe, is that somewhere after that, Tesla and WD Gann were contemporaries. And I think
Okay.
Gann got some information from Tesla. He never talked about it, but in his book, Tunnel Through the Air, there's a lot of electronic things and communications and brand new technology that was never out there. And I think that was all from influenced
Tesla.
by Tesla. And
Yeah.
so um, and later on he started talking about what we call the law of vibration, which, if you read my favorite Tesla quote, which is, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think about things in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And so I went down that path because I've been down all the rest of them.
Okay.
And what I found is that there is a energy that kind of courses through our
Markets.
society, through Earth, whatever. And
Hmm.
that what I found out was it's measurable. Now, because I don't have a chart up here, I'm just gonna, all
You
you
could
guys
though.
can
You
hear.
could share if you scroll your mouse to the bottom of the page, you'll see a green button icon that says share, and you'll be able to share your screen.
Huh. Well,
Do you see it?
I do not. I've got a couple of windows open. I'm not sure which one it is,
Okay,
but
well, I'm talking about the Zoom window, and
yeah.
it's at the bottom of the screen. You'll see things like Q&A, raise hand, chat,
Let's see,
share.
return to meeting, join, share screen,
Share
schedule,
screen. There you go.
but it's grayed out, so I don't know why that is. Anyways, I
All
can
right.
just tell you.
Okay.
Everybody get a pencil and a piece of paper because I'm going to give you some dates. I'm going to give you what the last dates are and a couple more that are coming. Um,
Okay.
those dates are, in this year, were January 7th, the 13th, January 24th, January 31st. Now, the next one is today. Today is a change in trend date. And although we're kind of moving up into it, so it would tell me that likely we're making a high today. So
And
what
what?
was
You're talking stock indexes now?
right now, what I found was, and because I trade puts and calls and futures, and so I'm more interested in the stock market's my main thing. I also
Okay.
follow the dollar because I think it's just something good to keep an eye on. And what I also found out was that when I got these dates and I started looking around, they work with Bitcoin, they work with the dollar, they work with crude oil, and that's about as far as I've gone. But like I say, what I do is really more the stock market. There's just a lot of stuff to trade there. So um, anyways,
Uh,
today is a
uh,
change in trend date. Whether this is an acceleration up or we make a top today, that's this the
well,
way these things.
that's two quite different scenarios. So we won't know until the day's over.
Well, but likely. Actually, the trickiest way this thing works is when it goes sideways into the change of trend date, because then
Yeah.
you don't know whether you know what it's doing. So, but we may rally up here. I personally think that we're in a correction that started a while ago and that it's not over yet, and it probably won't be over for a couple more months, and that we may end up with possibly a 15% correction in that neighborhood, maybe a little bit more, because you really never know.
Yeah.
So, um,
Okay. So
but
the
so
highs are in. So you're wrong. So you would take a signal like you're having today, and let me share my screen. Okay. So S&P's the poison that you trade.
yeah, exactly. It's
S&P's.
the one that gives me the best results.
Okay. So here we are. So today's a day. Do you sell it, and how do you define your risk? Is it over the high of the move? Um, do you
Well,
wait for
one
the
of the things that I
close?
do to make a trade is
Hmm.
I have developed over a long time two or three oscillators that are pretty darn good. The other thing is that I have to say is that most of my trading is pretty short term, 3 days to 7 days.
Okay.
Um, my history shows me that the longer you try to forecast something, generally, the more dangerous that is. And not only that, but once you put together kind of a long-term forecast, it gets embedded in your subconscious, and now you're biased. So I personally prefer trading what I call segments. And that's where I get now with what the change of trends are, is I'll just trade those change of trends and I'll take 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it is, take the money and run and wait for the next setup. They come about 4 to 6 a month. So there's
Hmm.
plenty of time to trade.
Right.
You don't have to rush it. Um, and the ideal setup is where the oscillators are peaking and the market's moved up into that time frame, which looks like that's what it's happening today. So um, I've been looking at this data as it's probably a high. And if you look at your RSI there, which is really
Yeah,
long
right
for
here.
me, but um, that's that's up at the top too. So, and actually, we've actually based on that 4 hour chart there, you've got an outside bar there happening
Right.
in the last thing. So, um, I'm thinking we're going lower here and that we're going to be lower all the way into April. And at which point in time, that will be a wonderful.
Buying opportunity in the spring. There will be growth in the spring. Is that when the Fed gets more active to support the market? And let me ask you, I know you do short-term stuff. You ever look at the
I think
long-term, like the
kind of what
dollar?
I'm
Like the dollar, do you believe that, the top that started in January 13th, which was a date that you mentioned, that was near
yep.
the peak of the dollar, and then what we had Sunday night on tariff announcements, that a long-term top is in for the dollar?
Well, I don't listen to news. I strictly work on
Well, I
charts.
didn't ask you about if you listen
Okay.
to news.
Well, my feeling is that the dollar is probably, the dollar is a tricky thing. Sometimes it acts like the stock market does, and sometimes it
yeah,
acts the reverse. I think in some cases the dollar is kind of like gold or Bitcoin. It's a bit of a safe haven. And when you watch markets roll over and go down, a lot of times the dollar goes up because money's flowing out of those equity funds that are coming out, and it goes into the dollar. It's like a short-term place to hide. And
uh-huh.
so that's what makes, in my opinion, the dollar tricky, is that it's a kind of a two-faced animal. And and so again, this is why, I studied a lot of technical. I actually, this is something I did 3 years ago. There was reported that about 80 to 90% of all the activity in the market was based on computers. Okay.
Right.
So I thought, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse engineer the market. So I basically, what I did was I said, okay, if they're going to do this, how are they going to do it? Well, there's only so many indicators and things that you can use. I mean, you go up, down, or sideways. That's all you got. So
Okay.
I developed a short-term trading system based on technical analysis, and I've done very well with it. And so now what I do is I kind of use those same metrics to determine whether we're making a high or a low. And so, anyways, technical analysis has always been a part of what I do. So, um,
Yeah, I did you used to carry around the commodity perspective and get coffee stain
yeah, where you'd
and
have to update the charts manually.
yeah, and that you would get coffee stains, and you could tell what restaurants you've been at by what you spilled on your chart
Yes,
book. And you know what a
exactly.
friend of mine said when I was wrong? I always had my chart book, well, not always, but when I spent a lot of time uh, with that book. And if I was wrong on a few things, he would say, "Hey, Dale, why don't you just turn your charts upside down?" So I
Well,
be the right way, like George Costanza, do the opposite, fade myself.
there's
Anyway,
my
here
chart. You got my
yeah,
chart on there. You can see those vertical lines are where the
yeah,
change trends are. Those are where
yeah,
the pivot CITs are.
right,
Um,
okay.
And damn it, man, they work really good, as you can see.
What
Um,
do the why don't we do this? What do the different colors mean of the
Actually,
vertical lines?
different colors are different frequencies.
Okay,
And actually, what I have found this is all within 3 or 4 months. You got to remember too, Dale, that I
yeah,
have found what I believe is the correct analysis of Gann's law of vibration. And so it's what I'm also finding out now is that the frequencies really don't make any difference. It's just a change of trend, and I thought maybe at some point in time, because there are lower and higher frequencies, that maybe it would make a difference in the strength, but it doesn't appear that it does. It's just you
Okay.
get a turn on those days. So yeah, there's the perfect. That's what I do. Right there is that's what's on my website. That's what I do. And um, man, it's the most exciting thing in 52 years in the markets that I've ever seen.
All right.
So
Well, that's a statement in itself from a guy who's really been on quite a journey. So,
I'm older than dirt, Dale.
well, well, then we're both dirt. Anyway, so this is the best way for people to get a hold of you because you need to change your handle. It's too hard to write down your phone number plus your name. Simplify it for people. Just advice.
I hear you.
So here we are, gantiming.com. Uh, so any specials for people that have seen you on Face today? You want to offer a code up or something?
Well, I don't have anything set up
Oh,
like that, but as
total.
you can
Okay, so
see,
what
I
is
charge
this 1 month?
$27 a month, which is
That's
anybody can afford.
yeah, very reasonable.
And
Okay.
so then that's the reason I do it. I'm hoping I can get through to people that have been struggling or that maybe, could um use some help and that this will help make them some money. That's kind of the whole idea here. I mean, I'm trying to give back. I've been doing this a long time and I found this and I want to share it. So, but I got to make a living too. So,
Okay. Well,
it's
I wish you a lot of success and hopefully, people that have an interest in GAN and want to learn about, what you went through to come up with this. It wasn't easy. Someone who's been in the business for 5 decades, is definitely a warrior. So you are now my trading warrior brother, Scott.
Thank you, Dale. And I'm with like you, I'm with Jesus. And so that's a good thing and a big part of
Okay.
my life.
All
Um,
right.
but to
Well,
go
well,
back to
I
Citrus,
was I was bar mitzvahed at 13 and baptized at 40, so I'm hedged.
now there's
Uh,
a true hedger.
all right, so that's my spiritual hedge. So, really, I'm glad you reached out. I look forward to staying in touch with you on X, Scott, and I hope you have a great year and your business grows like a mushroom.
Thank you, Dale. I appreciate your time, man.
All right, Scott Yarbrough, everyone. You're interested in GAN? You know, uh, here's a mad scientist for you to follow and learn from. Okay. So that's going to be a wrap for me, everybody. I hope you had a good week. The break in the dollar from Sunday night was my best trade, and and a little silver short yesterday. Do you have a high doing the metals here, Scott? I saw you liked a tweet I put in
No,
there. No,
I
nothing.
don't, I've read some things a while back that, it's really good to pick one, something and stay with it and learn it and, feel
Yeah.
it and be part of it. And that's what I believe. I think this
Okay.
market's making a peak on this change of trend here today. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a bloody end of the day, but we'll see. Um,
Okay.
Time will tell.
I'd actually like to see a blow off and a breakout and get this, that this could be a 4 and that we're going to get a 5. And the reason why isn't because I want to be, that I want to be long. I think it's going to set up great counter trend shorts of stocks that have already peaked. So, I think I have a chance
You're
maybe to
right. There's a lot
short.
of the Mag Sevens are getting kicked in the teeth here, and
Yeah,
that's not going to end well. Like I say, I
yeah,
still think we're in a correction. I wouldn't
yeah.
be surprised 15%, maybe even 20.
Yeah. And NASDAQ will be more if that's what you're looking for, the S&Ps. NASDAQ could be 30-40% if that
There you
happens.
go, because it always is
Yeah.
exaggerates.
All right, Scott. Well, you're now my trading warrior brother. I'll get back to you, and we'll keep you in the rotation and
Sounds great,
trying.
Dale.
Okay, so have a great weekend, Scott, and everyone else. Enjoy. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. And enjoy your weekend.
Take care, gentlemen.
All right, see everyone. Adios.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with Forex Analytics. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.